Okay, so, yes, my name is Aaron Reed, and I am back just talking about Wheel of Time. This is my first read-through of the series. I'm reading through it due to library availability, and I do not own any copies yet. I hope to buy the Wheel of Time eventually, but not yet. Not yet. Anyways, today I am talking about two books. Last time I talked about the first two books in the series, The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt. Both of those and the current show, which is out on Amazon Prime, is, it's somewhat an adaptation of those first two books of the series. But today I'm going to talk about the next two books, The Dragon Reborn and The Shadow Rising. Why am I talking about both of the books? Because I got so caught up in reading them that I forgot to make a review video until I finished both. That is just the way it happened, alright? So you're getting two reviews instead of one. I currently only have the copy of The Shadow Rising, but I obviously would have also read The Dragon Reborn, or else I wouldn't have picked this up. I know this is the fourth in the series, not the third. So anyways, let's get into discussing the two books. So, starting with The Dragon Reborn. Comparing it to the previous two books, it's a bit further back in my memory, but what I can tell you is that the first thing I loved about it, both of these were great books. They are, I guess, my favorites so far. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if they're my favorites so far. The Great Hunt was pretty good. I think The Eye of the World is the weakest of the first four, but let's just talk about The Dragon Reborn. So The Dragon Reborn, it's a very ironic book because its title is The Dragon Reborn. And, of course, this is a spoiler review. I mean, why would you be watching a review of the third book in a series if you aren't actually... I mean, I don't know. Anyways, The Dragon Reborn, it's an ironic book because it's called The Dragon Reborn, but it is the first book where Rand, the Dragon Reborn, he's barely a character. By the end of The Great Hunt, my biggest problem with the story was simply the fact that I was reading way too much from Rand's perspective. And I was just getting bored with this Rand dude. It was fun to read some of this stuff. It was fun to read about his Kyrian arc especially. But man, too much of Rand gets boring. My favorite parts of The Eye of the World and my favorite parts of The Great Hunt are parts of the book where Rand was not the point of view character. This time around in The Dragon Reborn, we get to follow the perspectives of Perrin, we get to follow the perspective of Matt, and we get to follow the perspective of Egwene. The other young people from the Two Rivers. And that was such a relief to read. It was such a relief to read. Oh, man. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I began to realize that this book was primarily going to be written from the perspective of Perrin, Egwene, and Matt. And Rand gets like a few paragraphs or pages here and there. He gets like 4 paragraphs before the climax. Just like 4. And it's great. That was... Okay, so that honestly sounds really bad. Like Rand is some sort of terrible, absolutely boring character. And like, the fact that the best thing about The Dragon Reborn was that Rand wasn't the main character just seems to say that, it just seems like I'm saying maybe Rand's a bad character. But I'm not. It's just, in this case, I'm glad that we didn't get more of him because it was only him for the first 2 books, basically. Yes, there was a few chapters here and there where we weren't following Rand, but man, Robert Jordan really could have done more with other perspectives in The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt, and I really wish he did. That's not what happened, though. That's fine. It is what it is. The book is written. And Rand is, of course, not a bad character at all. People do call him an everyman, and that's fine. I mean, he's not a bad everyman character. He is a character that knows what he's doing, that feels driven. He's very survival-oriented in a lot of the earlier books because he's in a dangerous situation and he wants to get out of it. So all of his thoughts are like, can I get out of this? How do I get out of this? Whatever. Rand, he's fun to read about. What he does is fun to read about. Yes, he's not the most interesting personality. He's not the craziest personality out there. He's just this kind of driven, set guy that I'm reading. That's how I'm reading him. He's just driven and kind of just knows what he wants. He's no nonsense. He's going for it. He's going to do it. But that flavor of character, just too much of it. There was too much of it for the first 2 books. And in The Dragon Reborn, we get the very, very different perspectives of Egwene, Perrin, and Mat. And all of these characters were amazing. I have to make sure I don't confuse Egwene. The biggest complaint I have for those 3 characters, Perrin, Egwene, and Mat, is that Egwene's arc, I keep on confusing events that happen in The Great Hunt related to Egwene and events that happened in The Dragon Reborn related to Egwene. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but I don't know what it is. It's just like the 3 arches that Nynaeve went through and the 3 arches that Egwene went through, those are very distinct, but it's just like, even though I just finished The Dragon Reborn, I'm like, did Egwene go to Falm in The Dragon Reborn? No. She went to Falm in The Great Hunt. She went to Tyr in this book. She went to Tyr. Okay. So, let's see. I really liked Egwene's arc. I liked her interaction with Gawain and Galad. And Egwene, Elaine, Nynaeve, their interactions, they were some of my favorite. Why can't I remember them, though? Maybe they weren't my favorite if I can't remember them. But their story arc of just trying to find the Black Aja was fun. Their conflict with the Amerlin seat, Swion Sanche, that was just, it really showed how tough-minded they were, how driven they were. Like this theme with 2 Rivers characters all being these driven people who don't take any nonsense, who don't listen to authority, but just do what they think is right. It characterizes them well. I would say their arc is not the most important to the story. They make a lot of progress with the magic system, and I really liked reading about that progress they made with learning about the world of dreams and stuff. You got to see a lot more of that in The Dragon Reborn. And, my actual favorite arc would either have to be Perrin or Mat's arc. I think Mat's arc is the best of the characters, of the perspective characters in this 3rd novel, The Dragon Reborn. Mat, it's just we get to see him for who he really is for the first time, because in these past 2 books, he was just absolutely ruined by that dagger from Shadar Logoth. And now we get to see Matt, and he's doing good. And he's actually like a badass with his quarterstaff flying around. I saw someone basically say that Matt is so lucky because he basically embraces his Taviran powers, and that just allows him to be lucky because he knows he embraces it, and since he's not fighting against it, he's lucky. Which I think is kind of a cool idea, and yeah, that was just really fun. He had a bunch of different action sequences, and it was just cool. But Perrin was also a great character. I really enjoyed that he, I really enjoyed his whole relationship with Fail, Serene, Bashir. I think that's a relatively full name. That character, Fail, was just a really nice addition to the crew. This hunter for the horn that's already been sounded. I really liked how Moraine was like, okay, you can go with us, but remember, you can leave at any time, but at some point, you're going to know too much, and I am going to tell you that you must stay, and if you ever leave us after that point, I will kill you. And that was just such a great line that really characterized Moraine's cutthroat but lawfully, legally good nature. Oh man, and Moraine. For some reason, people are saying the show version of Moraine is like darker and more villainous, and no, I don't think so. I think this book version of Moraine is like the most cutthroat, cold-blooded do-gooder you could imagine. And I don't think we've ever seen Moraine up to this point do something absolutely terrible in the name of helping Rand and saving the world. But I fully expect that if she needed to, she would. And I'm afraid of what she's going to do one of these days, and I don't know what it will be. Moraine is a scary character. Like, a character that's scary even if they're on your side. And I love that. But no, one of my favorite parts was indeed the relationships between Perrin and Fail. I really loved how Perrin's climax was just entirely removed from the main climax of the story and focused on this new relationship he had. It's just like, it's kind of sweet and dramatic at the same time, and epic, and not everything has to be about Rand. But Rand is what this book is about, even if Rand doesn't appear in it. And Rand is, I think, a good character, and I think this is amplified by the fact that he is not a perspective character in this book. What's really great about Rand in The Dragon Reborn is that you clearly see that his goal during this entire thing, the only reason he's running off to Tyr, causing all this chaos, separating himself from the party, is because Rand wants to know that he's the Dragon Reborn. He wants to do something that will definitively say, I am the Dragon Reborn, or else prove this whole mess wrong so he can finally get back home and live his life. And of course, what happens? Rand runs across the entire continent, the entire Westlands. He goes to Tyr. He draws the sword that is not a sword. And overall, he was. It's definitely one of those cases where Rand was just great because it's really one of those cases where an author is able to develop a character and like deeply develop them while at the same time just taking them completely off screen. It's one of the most masterful things that Jordan did in The Dragon Reborn. It is very difficult to take the main character off the page and somehow develop him as a character far more off screen than he was. Rand developed as a character more in this one book, though we only had like 2 or 3 chapters that were his perspective, and a few paragraphs outside of that. Even though there was only this so much of the book was about Rand. Rand developed more as a character in The Dragon Reborn than he did in The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt combined. And that is fascinating, that Jordan was able to do that. It's just fascinating. And I also have no clue how Jordan was able to just convince me that Matt Coffin was the kind of person he was, even though in the first 2 books he was a completely different character. Because, of course, he was controlled by the dagger. How did he convince me that just because this dagger got removed, now Matt Coffin is this cool, heroic, badass character? I don't get it. Like, how? You didn't get to see him before this moment, yet he's been on screen. How did he change the character of Matt in the eyes of the reader? I don't know. The Dragon Reborn is, it's a masterful novel. And it's definitely a good 3rd installment. I think it's better than both of the previous books, and I think it's my favorite. Just because of how focused the narrative is. The narrative is focused. It is the characterization is amazing, and we get to just see so much of the world. Of course, we've already seen a lot of the world. We get to go back to Camelin. I really liked going back to Camelin. I really liked that as well. It's just such a masterful work. It's focused. The characterization is amazing. And, I mean, the climax is epic. It is probably the first Wheel of Time book where the climax was something that I felt like I understood. You know? Because what I saw in the climax was, Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve. They are trapped by the Black Aja and the Stone of Tyr. Matt Coffin is looking for them. He wants to go free them. He blows the wall up. He finds them while Egwene is beating up the Black Aja in the dream world. So they kind of unintentionally work together to help Elaine, to free them all. And at the same time, the Aiel are attacking the Stone of Tyr because they're looking for, because they've been told by a bunch of people in the West that he who comes with the dawn, the guy they're looking for, is going to the Stone of Tyr. And Rand is going to the Stone of Tyr. There's a Forsaken waiting for him, wanting to kill him. But he wants Rand to pull Callandor first so that he can duel Rand. Which, after seeing what Rand did with Callandor in his battle with Ishamael, I think Belal's desire to duel Rand after he pulled up Callandor was kind of the most stupid thing that anyone could ever do. Like, okay. Rand basically killed Ishamael in one hit after he pulled Callandor out of the Stone of Tyr. And Belal was just like, hey, pull that out so I can fight you. And it's just like, Rand didn't even know what he was doing when he killed Ishamael with Callandor. Really. And this Forsaken was so tied up in this wanting to beat Rand on equal footing that he literally wanted Rand to pull Kalendor before he fought Rand. That's just like, oh, I can't believe how dumb that Forsaken was. It's actually dumb. I would not, if I was Belal, I would not let Rand pull Kalendor. Then again, Belal was wanting to take Kalendor from Rand, but still, I would not expect it to work. Nonetheless, we see 2 Forsaken die in The Dragon Reborn, which is a pretty cool thing to happen. They just die straight up. And it's like the main villain for the first 2 books just dies. It's Shamael. He dies. And it's like, oh, this guy that we were all worried about, he's not the Dark One, first off. And he's not that important. But somehow all of these other weaker Forsaken are going to be more important and more dangerous. Cool. But, like, okay, apparently this guy is not important. And Moraine just killing Belal with balefire, I mean, I understood that. I understood what was going on. We learned earlier, because of Moraine fighting Samael's dogs, that Moraine knew about this super powerful secret technique called balefire, and it got used. And we got to see that, like, balefire is OP. Balefire can kill a Forsaken in a single hit. The only other thing we have seen do that is Kalendor. And balefire can kill a Forsaken in a single hit. Okay, balefire is dangerous. Balefire is dangerous. And what I'm trying to say is, overall, a lot of things happened in The Dragon Reborn, but the plot was focused. The climax was understandable. I understand what goes on. I understand why the heroes won. I understand. And the conclusion was great. I got to see basically everything I wanted to see. I got to see Perrin and Fael get together. I got to see Mat rescue Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve. I got to see Rand pull Kalendor. I got to see Moraine kill a Forsaken with balefire. And I also got to see Shamael die. Like, and now Rand is ruling over the Stone of Teeter. That is epic. We get to see all of that. How can it not be my favorite? After all, I've only read the first 2, The Dragon Reborn and The Shadow Rising, which is the next one that I'm going to talk about right now. So, Shadow Rising. How does it compare to The Dragon Reborn? I would say The Shadow Rising is a great book. It's better than the first 2. I think The Eye of the World out of the first 4 is the worst of the books. I, of course, have not read Lord of Chaos yet. I have it. I have read the prologue of Lord of Chaos, but I have not read it. But this Shadow Rising novel is kind of nice. What I liked the most about The Shadow Rising is that it didn't feel like I was addicted to it. You know? The Dragon Reborn was such a fast-paced read for me, I felt like I couldn't put it down. Which is like, yeah, that's a nice, fun experience to have. It's fun to read a very fast-paced and addicting book. But sometimes I want to be able to go to a book, spend a reasonable amount of time, enjoy it, and then put it down without difficulty. And if it wasn't for the fact that I have had to return this or renew it after 2 weeks, I probably would have taken a month or 2 to read The Shadow Rising, which I think is a good thing. I think that's a very good thing. The Shadow Rising, I feel like, is a potentially much slower read. I feel like the chapters are generally more fulfilling on their own. I feel like the climax doesn't draw me as much. I'm not pushing myself towards the climax. for at least most of the arcs. I would say I could have just, whenever it came to Elaine and Nynaeve's arc, their little adventure in Tanchico, I could have just put this down whenever I wanted. I did not need to know what the next step was. It was fun to read about. I didn't, but I didn't need to reach the end as quickly as possible like I did with The Dragon Reborn. And same thing with Rand and Egwene and Mat going to the Aiel Waste. I wasn't really that tense with their story. I could have just read through it slowly but surely, and I would have been fine. But there was one arc in this book that I really, really, really wanted to get it over with as fast as possible. Because, it's one of those, this arc is just, it was pulling me through the entire book, making me go a lot faster than I really wanted to, and probably needed to. And also, but it's because the arc was really great. This book is slower paced than The Dragon Reborn. But I think it's still a great read, and if you want to read it fast, you can. But what arc was making me read this about as fast as I did The Dragon Reborn? That was Perrin's arc. Perrin going to save the two rivers from Ordeith and the White Cloaks, trying to burn the whole thing to the ground. And then there's Trollocs. And, oh, wait, he has relationship drama with Fael, his new girlfriend. And, I wanted to read through the whole thing. I wanted to read through that. Honestly, if I read this again, I would have just read every single Perrin chapter. I would have read, every single Perrin chapter in one sitting, skipping the rest. And then just slowly read the chapters from the other characters over time. But I read it straight through. So I guess I didn't get to enjoy some of the arcs as much as they deserved because I really wanted to get to the Perrin chapters. The Perrin chapters, I think, were the best part of this book, but I think every arc in this book was good. It was fun. It was great. I would say that so obviously Perrin saving the two rivers is my favorite part of The Shadow Rising. However, I would say that the Elaine and Nynaeve looking for the Black Aja in Tanchico. The other two arcs were Elaine and Nynaeve were looking for the Black Aja in Tanchico. The second being Rand, Egwene, and Mat, and Moraine, and Lan, and a bunch of others go to the Aiel Waste and Ruidian in order to fulfill some Aiel prophecies and get them on the side of Rand. So those two arcs, which go in opposite directions, Nynaeve and Rand, of course, have relationship problems. No, not Nynaeve. Elaine and Rand have relationship problems because of this, which was cool. But ultimately, these two arcs, they go in two different directions, and I feel like they both have opposite trajectories in terms of quality. Elaine and Nynaeve, their arc was really boring to me at the start. It was it's an Elaine chapter, it's a Nynaeve chapter. I guess I'm going to read through this because this is the order the book's written in. And it was like that for a while until you have this new Sion Shan character coming in, shaking up the whole story, and now you're wondering where this is going to go. This Sion Shan character from the last book, The Great Hunt, you love to hate the Sion Shan. They are some of the best written villains in The Great Hunt. And now, you read about a character that starts out, okay, this is a villain, you're supposed to hate her, Okay, and she saved the heroes, and now the heroes don't realize what's going on. Oh, now they're friends, and now, oh, her secret's revealed, and you like this character, too. I like Igamen, too. I feel conflicted like Nynaeve. She feels so betrayed. And that's so interesting. It's like, now I want you to be a hero, but you're a villain. How is that going to work? And you want to be a hero, and you know you're a villain, but you don't know how to. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. And of course, we get to just see how, in the Dragon Reborn and in this book, we get to see just how weak the Forsaken actually are. We only fought one in the first two books, and he seems so powerful. But now, the Forsaken just feel like they're just, if they're taken on one-on-one by our heroes, are there even going to be any around for the last battle? It seems like we're just going to kill them all. Because we get to fight two Forsaken. We get to fight Moghedien and Tanshiko. Nynaeve fights Moghedien. And that battle between Nynaeve and Moghedien, I really liked that. The climax of Elaine and Nynaeve, insofar as it relates to Tanshiko, that climax was a fun read. It was a great read. It was an interesting read. Now, I think Rand in the Ideal Waste, it went the opposite direction. It started out really interesting, really cool, really great, but I feel like at the end, Robert Jordan just dropped the ball on the tension. You know? Because it was just, Rand going to Ruinian, he's like, I am going to fulfill the prophecies of he who comes with the dawn. The Aiel are going to be on my side. And he does, as best as he can, and that's cool. And I liked how this conflict was being set up between Rand and this Shido chief Coaldan. At the climax, I wanted to see some sort of battle between Rand and Coaldan. And, I could tell that there was some sort of Forsaken, there was some sort of Forsaken in the peddler's wagon. I could tell that. I knew Lanfear was in that wagon, and I knew she wasn't going to be the main villain. But the way Asmodean appears, Asmodean just appears in the final sequence on Rand's storyline in this book. And who's Asmodean? I knew a Forsaken was lying in wait to kill Rand in the third book. And that was interesting how the law was fought. But, this Asmodean guy, I've never heard of him before. Who is he? Why are we fighting him? Where's he from? What is he doing? Why did he appear? I don't get it. But he appeared, and we fought him, and we won, which is kind of expected. But, okay, we won. He's Rand's teacher now. Teacher in channeling, but, man, it was just so, honestly, I would have felt more excited for Rand to fight Coaldan, who is just this random dude, than I just felt underwhelmed that instead of fighting this guy, instead of having a battle between Aiel with Rand versus this guy, we just get, the fact that I'm saying that we just get, whenever he's instead fighting a Forsaken, it tells you how I feel about this little thing that happened at the very end. It was so boring to me, honestly. I really wish that Rand fought almost anyone else. But no, we get to see him fight Asmodean. And, Asmodean stopped Lanfear from doing weird things to Rand, so why should I even dislike the guy? I have no reasons to dislike him yet. I don't know anything about him. The book tells me nothing about him, except that he stopped Lanfear from doing weird things to Rand. and Rand beat him up and made him his teacher. That's all I know about him. That's all there is to know about him in this book. This guy's not scary. So, that is basically my experience with The Dragon Reborn and The Shadow Rising. What do you think? Did you have similar thoughts on them? What arts did you like the best? As a minor thing, I was surprised that my copy of The Shadow Rising from the library has no prologue. Interesting. The first book that did not have a prologue. Does that happen with other copies, or is it just this edition with the paintings on it? Do other copies have prologues? I don't know. The Fall of the White Tower was amazing. I really liked how he got me to hate, to think of Gawain and Galad as bad characters now, whenever I liked them so much in the previous books. Of course, I really hope that Gawain will become a good character in future books, but he's a bad character now. And yes, overall, my favorite plot line in the series so far is Perrin saving the two rivers. That's my favorite. And yeah, they're both great books, but Dragon Reborn is my favorite book of the Wheel of Time so far. I guess I got nothing else to say. Why should I?